Good morning, Syndicate members. How is everyone? It is Wednesday. It's 9 a.m. You know what that means. That means we are here for our regular show
Let's
every week,
go.
winning on Wednesday. I'm Tony Merwin. You guys, I'm sure, know that because it says it on the screen, but you probably, I don't know if you know my friend over here, Joe Facebook. He is something big time, man.
I like that. Hey, that's a good one. Keep that
How
one.
you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing good. Good morning. Got my coffee in me. Right after this, we're getting ready to head to Dallas for SWAT. So we're freaking hyped, man.
When are you leaving for SWAT? Today?
Yeah, we're going early today. We're doing later tonight, I guess, meeting up with the speakers and stuff. So, but yeah,
You're
gonna get there early.
SWAT, aren't you?
I am speaking at SWAT.
Very nice. I like it. I like it. Is that your weekly win, or you got something else for us?
You know, I do. That is definitely my weekly win. I'm excited. Anybody that knows me knows my heart, and I love to just, speak to agents, help agents, and SWAT. I was just talking because a couple of my in-house guys are coming with, and Gabu and Austin are coming, and I was like, it's unlike any freaking train. I was like, just get ready because it's unlike anything. That is definitely a win. But then, yeah, had our softball game last night. Freaking win, 19-2, baby. That's a win right there. So that was a good one.
It's not even a competition. Are you guys just in the wrong league? Maybe y'all need to bump up a level or something.
The poor dude couldn't pitch, man. And it's like, I don't know if they just didn't have another pitcher or something.
How hard is it to pitch?
I started swinging because I felt bad because he was walking everybody, but I'd have to take like 5 steps up to even freaking hit the ball because he was throwing so short.
I always feel bad for the guys that strike out in slow pitch softball. Yeah. I mean, what do you say to them to console them? It's hard to hit in only 3 tries.
Right.
And he throws a wicked 12-foot arc.
What's your win, Mr. Merwin? What you got for us?
I'm going back to those leads that I've been talking about. Every week, I continue to get more data that shows that they're doing better and better. But this week, it was actually pretty funny. I was sitting in the roadshow in Denver, and we were doing some testimonials, and all of a sudden, my phone started blowing up. And one of my agents calls in or is dialing in, is like, dude, these leads are outstanding. I love them. And I'm talking about those BRC leads that all I did was added the QR code to the landing page. But what I'm being told is they are hot. They're getting great contact on them, and they are setting appointments and getting sales quickly. So
good.
Super, super good deal. And then just coming off the roadshow always feels good. That feels like a win in itself. Denver was a phenomenal roadshow. And speaking of Denver, our next guest that we have on today has something up and coming in Denver that is going to be pretty spectacular. I'm sure we'll jump into that, but we do have, truthfully, a very special guest. Man, I met this dude. We both met him at the same time. Uh-huh. We were at the Cody Askins Power Players event in Springfield almost 2 years ago now. There was about 25 of us, bunch of dudes, all just hanging out, talking insurance and playing pickleball and talking smack, water volleyball and whatever. Oh, yeah, we were mad smack getting thrown around in that event. But there was a lot of great relationships that came out of that event, including the opportunity to meet our guest that we have today. He is an absolutely just outstanding example of this business, guys. This is one of the young guns in insurance, as I like to call him. Joe's obviously a member of that group as well. But this dude's super impressive. He flows in mostly the Medicare space. I'm sure he does some life and health as well. I know he writes a ton of dental insurance. He's out of Idaho. He owns Camas Prairie Insurance, and he's getting involved in some other stuff that we're going to dive into as well. So super, super interesting, dude. Get your questions ready because this guy's about to lay on some serious knowledge for you guys. Let's get him on stage now, or on screen, I should say. Mr. Joshua Lustig. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's good to see you. Is that your, I assume that's your office there that you're sitting in?
Yes, sir.
That is a really nice looking office, man. I like it with the map and the tree and all the other good little things you got back there. Obviously, the U.S. flag.
Is it just the map?
Well, the map, I have to say, I've always been fascinated with, Andrew Carnegie, all the steel guys, the oil guys, Rockefeller. And when I was in high school, I said, someday I'm going to have a map. And when I own a section of that map, I'm going to put a pin in it. Well, I haven't quite figured out how to measure that yet, so I just have a map, and it's blank currently. We'll see how we measure ownership, but it's more just for decoration. My favorite thing in my office is my picture kind of behind me here. It's my son. You can't hardly see him. He's 4, and it's me overlooking our cattle ranch. on the Salmon River out here in Idaho. And my dad has a picture with me when I was that age. Same spot, same stuff. So really, really cool for me to have the opportunity to be on the farm. That family, those family roots.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. On the farm, on the ranch, on the Salmon River, you said?
Yeah, so we're actually hosting a mastermind out here in July, and on that same river, we're taking these jet boats. And actually, that's my weekly win. I'll tell you, one of them is I got my buddies bought into the idea to take a bunch of us insurance agency owners on a trip on the Salmon River, and it's like whitewater rapids. People raft down it. But I don't like to raft. I'd like to take jet boats because I can sit there and have a cocktail while my buddy does all the work. And it's going to be a good time. So we got that all lined up.
I don't like to take rafts. I like to take jet boats.
That's how he rolls.
That's a win.
You go up the whitewater rapids if you have a jet boat instead of down them. So that
makes sense. Very cool. Well, Josh, man, take a quick moment and just go ahead and introduce yourself to our group. I know some of them are probably familiar with you, some of you aren't, but you just want to tell them a little about your background and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, people normally know me as a guy that spends too much money on his personal development, sales skills, marketing. I spend a lot of money in learning from some of the industry's greats and also from just, I think, the brightest minds on planet Earth. I'm the guy that'll put $50K down to go talk to somebody just because I really believe in that. So I guess a little bit about me for those that don't know me. My name's Josh Lustig. I grew up in small town Idaho. Long story short, my dad was in the business. I came into it and he said, "Hey Josh, here's $15,000 for the year. I want you to do our accounting and answer the phones as the third secretary, basically, if you will, and get your license and you can take home 75% of anything you kill." Right? And I was 19 at the time, and I was looking to get married to my girlfriend at the time, and now my wife. So long story short, I just hustled, grounded out. I did everything that normal people do when you have no money and you're in the insurance business. You knock on doors, you call, any contact you have. I got into some group insurance. That was kind of my big break. And I started basically selling insurance to my mentors that had 100 employees. I started seeking out mentors, and then eventually that turned into great relationships. I kind of built that up. I was sitting at, good, small six figures in renewals at the time, call it 22 years old. But I'm looking at all these people on Facebook, and I'm people like you guys, like Joe Kampert and Tony, and I'm looking at all these guys, and I'm like, how are these guys doing 40, Medicare applications a month, or these outlandish numbers? I'm sitting in a town of 3,000 people. I live in a town of 1,000. I work in a town of 3,000. It's very, very rural. And there's one stoplight in the entire county. And the county is bigger than a lot of East Coast states when it comes to land mass. So you can imagine how rural that feels. And I'm sitting here watching these internet superstars, and I say, you know what? If they can do that, then I can do it too. I just have to figure out what they're doing. And call it arrogant or naive or just maybe determined. I think all of those could be interchanged sometimes. And I say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to spend whatever investment it takes to learn this stuff. I'm going to do it. And so it kind of started me down that journey. And I ended up spending a lot of money in my personal development, in sales training, marketing training. And we started to ramp up. And now kind of the rest is history. We've been scaling pretty quickly. We got a lot to learn still, but it took me from the 6 figures to the 7-figure, the whole 9 yards. Don't need to get into all that, but now we're at 25, and we got some different goals now than I thought 6 years ago. So
right.
That's kind of a brief intro to me. It's mostly in the Medicare space as far as our growth, but we do PNC, life, health, you name it. If you can think of it, we can insure it. So That's kind of where we're at.
I love guys. 25.
Go ahead, Joe.
25, 7-figure earner, baby. I mean, and you guys hear how humble he is too. He just breezed on by that, bro. Everybody, hey, drop a round of applause in the freaking comments for freaking Lustig. I mean, dude, that's amazing. right? And I also know you personally, so I know the amount of work that you put in to doing that. So like, yeah, that's a round of applause deserved for sure. That's amazing work, man.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that.
What made you at a young age, or at least certainly young, you're still a young age, truthfully, but you mentioned something when you first started, you were like, oh, I'm selling group insurance, I'm selling group to all my mentors. And then you said, I started seeking out mentors. What made you, number one, want to seek out mentors? And number two, what do you look for? Like, what were some of the things that you're like, well, if I'm going to seek out a mentor, like these are the items that would be my ideal mentor, for example?
Absolutely. So for a little bit of value first here, you guys, I want to say on the subject of mentors, if you're going to write something down about mentors, write this down. Take the good, throw away the rest. Mm-hmm. Take the good, throw away the rest. The reason I say that right off the bat is when I'm looking for a mentor, I am not necessarily looking for like the person that Josh Lustig wants to become in all facets of life in every way. Because if that's true, it's going to be really hard to find because humans are not perfect. They just aren't. And if I find normally someone that has the skill set that I want in one area of life probably is not going to have, every other skill set or quality, I should say, in other areas of their life. And it's really important to go in with that attitude. Otherwise, you're going to feel disappointed because not everyone is perfect. Actually, nobody is. And so when I'm looking for a mentor, to your point, Tony, I want to find something that is outstanding about that person. I want to find, like, if I'm looking for a sales trainer, I don't really care, and people could misconstrue this, so I should be careful, but I don't really care about much other about their life of what they've done. If I'm looking for a sales skill, I want to find the best salesperson on the planet and go learn what they learn, and then balance it against my values, against what I believe about life, balance it about all of that stuff. So I don't have to take their attitude. I just have to take their skill set and learn from that. If I want to talk to, somebody that's been married for 60 years, I know a couple in town that's been married for 67 years. I'm like, damn, that's Paul Harvey that used to be on the radio all the time and talk about, 75 years of marriage. Well, that person, if they are absolutely broke and they've been married to their spouse for 60 years, doesn't mean I want to be 100% of them. I just want to learn what they know about marriage. And for me, that's been huge. So kind of back to my story, my first mentor is obviously my dad. Phenomenal guy. Grew up on the farm. It was every single day. I don't care if you got in at 1 a.m. The morning of, dragging in from a basketball game or a party or something. We're up at 5:30. We're up at 6 at the latest. We're out feeding cows, throwing little square hay bales like you've probably seen in the movies. Some of these people watching have done it themselves. And that just puts a grit in you. He was my first mentor. And that I will be forever grateful for. Look, fast forwarding a little bit, I started asking people in my community, and if you're a young person watching this, especially, any age you can do this, but especially if you're young, you have every reason in the world to go to the most successful people that you can think of in your area and say, hey, I know there's no amount of money that I could give you. Me buying you lunch is not going to help you at all, but I'm selfish and I really want to learn from you. And if I could buy you lunch and pick your brain for a half an hour, I would be eternally grateful for that. And it's flattering. Nobody turns you down. They don't. And nobody worthwhile. And I started to ask them for advice in my business. And I started to say, hey, look at all my numbers. Look at what I'm doing. Here's my strategy. I want to know what would you do? You're not in my industry even, but what would you do? And long story short, they started to have a vested interest in me succeeding. And eventually the conversation came up. I didn't even mean for this to happen, but it just did. Hey, Josh, why don't you take a look at our group health policy? I'm like, well, that would be freaking phenomenal since it's a $40,000 a year commission, and I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. And that kind of gave me a big break. It was kind of my first big win, and that just kind of propelled. So looking for mentors has been super important to me. Nowadays, I think I've graduated a little bit, and I will find people that are willing to take my money in exchange for their time and their attention. So I've spent $200,000 in the last 18 months just on personal development, sales training, and marketing coaching from, I feel like, some of the world's brightest minds. And so to me, that investment will pay dividends for the rest of our life.
Right.
And it's not just a one-time thing. So anyway, that's me and mentors. Great question.
That's good. And you know what? I love what you said. The one little nugget here, I hope you guys heard this, is that you don't always have to have mentorship with somebody who's like in your specific business, right? Like some of my, like the people who have changed Redwood don't even know, they call it PNC. It's like P&C, right? They don't even freaking know what it even stands for, but they've helped blow up our entire business, right? Like shout out Cody Askins. But he had he's not PNC, right? And even if it's outside of the insurance industry, I hope anybody watching this, anybody that's catching the replay, catching this on Spotify, YouTube, whatever, don't be willing to just get out there. And that's what I love about you saying that, Josh, is like, dude, and here's the funny thing, bro, we are all selfish. It's like they like it when you go to them and say, I would love to pick your brain because of how badass you are. And you're, this, and that. When you're tooting their horn, they're going to be like, hell yeah, I'll buy me lunch, man. Like that makes them feel good too, right? And so I love that you said that. And also the age part. Young people, get out there and freaking do it, right? But for everybody can be doing this. And all it goes back to like, what is insurance, right? It's a freaking people's freaking business, man. It's a relationship business. And it doesn't just have to be client facing. So I love that you said that.
Well, absolutely. And I haven't seen many people better at networking in my day as Mr. Tony Merwin right here in the group. And one thing when I met him, he was all about the relationship, and it's the small things, and I'd love for Tony to expand on that if you don't mind, Tony, but I just remember you had this presence about you that you really, really, the first time I ever met you, you paid attention to that person like they were the only human in the conversation, the only human in the world at that moment. You really, really had that focus, and it's something I've always aspired to be, and so you kind of embody it. You've always stood out in that area for me. So I don't know if you could share a few thoughts on that. That'd be awesome.
Just be a good listener. Honestly, learn to be a good listener. If you're trying to develop a relationship with anybody, you have to shut up. Right? When you engage with someone, this is one of the funniest things. When we engage with someone, if we do all of the talking, right? And when we walk away from that conversation, they're like, oh, man, that guy likes to talk a lot or whatever. But if you listen and you let them do all the talking, when they walk away from that conversation, like, wow, that guy was really interesting. And you didn't say anything. You just sat and listened to him the whole time. But they were so engaged because they were consumed with talking about themselves and so forth. And people love to talk about themselves. They'll tell you about their job, their family, their children, their pets, their hobbies. And if you get them a couple of drinks, they might start telling you some marketing secrets or a few other little tips that maybe that they're not willing to tell you without drinks. But, ultimately, just be a great listener. Somebody's already commenting in the group or in the comments. Yeah, people want to be heard. So if you allow someone to be heard and you intently listen and you give them that focus, it's easy to build relationships with folks. It truly is. And then ultimately, if, just take that a step further, if you're trying to grease the wheels on it, then look for a way out of all the information that they just vomited on you, find something in there that you can act on that allows you to sacrifice some money, some time, some effort, or some energy that you can give to that person that will now make them smile genuinely. And then you can grease the wheels on that relationship. So
Tony's like the best gift giver ever, like literally. And he brought that because he was going to miss my birthday, because I can't remember where you were going. You were going to miss my birthday. So he brings it to me early at our agent hangout, surprises me with it. I'm like, dude, Tony, you're a freaking G, man. Like, this is like one of my favorite gifts I've ever freaking gotten. No, you're so right on that. And that's
gifts work.
And I want to, so speaking of listening, Josh, right? Because, all right, so you've spent $200,000 probably and some change, right, to invest in yourself. And I love that. Guys, it's not an expense. He has an investment mindset, right? It's not an expense. He is like leveling up. The dividends pay forever. I love that you said that. When you're going through all these things, and I know that you've got kind of multiple mentors, what are maybe 2 to 3 things when listening to them that has really the top 3, and I know there's probably been a lot that have really kind of just changed your agency, right? Or just how maybe even you conduct business or how you communicate or those types of things, if you got maybe 2 to 3 to share.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So number one, from a business perspective, I want you guys to think, the people that are listening, one of the things I've been taught is look at something and say, okay, if this works, and at any level, if this works in my business, this marketing thing, this sales strategy, this whatever, if it works once, can I repeat this? Can I scale this from there? And I know it sounds elementary, but when I started looking at my business, I started realizing I wasn't adhering to that principle. I just wasn't. I was just kind of going ho-hum throughout the day doing what everybody else was doing. The reason most people don't scale is they don't think about it and go, okay, I'm going to take what's working right now. I'm doing one seminar a month, let's say, and the seminar is getting 20 people a month to come listen to you to talk about insurance, whatever that insurance may be. If you're doing that once a month and you're getting 20 people, the next thought should be, how many people can I get in that room every single month before I max it out? If only 50 people fit in the room, okay, grow it to 50. How can I get 50 people in the room? Now that you have 50 people in the room, I see so many people, which it seems very elementary, but I see so many people stop there and say, you know what, I got to find all these other ways to grow my business now because the seminars, they're just maxed out. Okay, excuse me, could we do 4 seminars a month? One a week. That's the way to scale that strategy. Don't throw away, the strategy or put it on the shelf and find something new. No, take what's working and scale that to the moon until you literally can't scale it anymore.
That's good.
And you look at some of these titans that are making, 8 and 9 figures. I'm serious. They're out there, and it's crazy to see that, and it makes my agency look like a baby. And we got a long way to go. And they do that exceptionally well, and they scale their employee base, they scale their marketing efforts, and in turn, they scale their profits. So number one is look, how can I scale? And actually, that's the question you should write down for that point. How can I scale this? The number 2 one, the second one for me was actually more of a personal thing, Joe. It was really what was holding me back is I cared so much about what people thought of me. And I wouldn't have ever admitted that. No, I was a little bit prideful about it, apparently. I actually cared what people thought of me. And it wasn't just the people right around me in my hometown or my family members, certainly them too. But more importantly, it was just everybody. I would get on a podcast like this and I would be, I'd be scared that I would say something that would diminish my value of somehow. Like internally, subconsciously, I was constantly afraid of that. And now because one of my mentors literally took my brain and took my confidence from a 3 and just cranked it to an 11. And confidence meaning I say before I go on stage, I teach at the Thrive seminar, I go on various things and I speak, even this today. And every single time I just say right before I go on, there is nothing that I can say or anybody else that's going to diminish my value today. So who cares? Just speak the truth. And for me, that's been very, very liberating. So for the people that are watching this, if I'm big about taking action items away, I want you to think about what are some actual limiting beliefs that you have. And that term gets thrown around a lot, kind of loosey-goosey, right? It gets thrown around a lot and, Tony Robbins woo-woo. But if you really look at it, you have limiting beliefs. Everybody does in some category. And you ask me right now, hey, Josh, I want you to stand on stage in front of 40,000 insurance agents. There's a stadium 5 minutes away. I know you're not prepared. Do you want to take the opportunity? My brain has been brainwashed, for a lack of a better term, to say, you bet. Let's go. Let's provide the value.
Right.
But flip this around for a second, and the same person walks in my office right now and says, hey, Josh, I will give you $100,000. There's a stadium 5 minutes away filled with 40,000 people. I will give you $100,000 to go on that stage right now and dance for 5 minutes in front of these people. I'll give you $100,000, and all you have to do is dance in front of these people that you don't even know for 5 minutes. And guess what I'm going to tell them? I'm going to tell them you can go to, where? And I'm going to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Not for 100. I mean, maybe for 200, I would have to consider it just to make my fool myself. But why is that? Can I physically not dance? Can I physically not move my foot? Yes, I can. The only difference in the two scenarios is what I believe about myself.
Yeah.
What do you believe about yourself? And so for those listening today, write that down. What do I believe about myself, good and bad? Make a list. And anything that's on the negative side, you got to wonder, is that actually true? If you believe the sky is black in the middle of the day, is that actually true? Or is it just something that you were convinced of as a child? So that'd be my second one, not to go on and on here, but you can tell I get a little passionate. The third one's about marketing for me. And it's really looking at your business and going, okay, is marketing or sales more important? And I used to think that was a funny question. They're obviously both important, but which one actually rules the day? If you're looking to scale, you might be a great salesperson. But if you're talking to 10 people a week or 10 people a month, that's not depending on your business, right? That's not going to get you as far as even a mediocre salesperson that's talking to 40 people a week on the phone or in person. And so you got to look at your business and say, what do I do exceptionally well? What are we known for? And how can I get 1 million eyeballs on that? Like the maximum amount of people that I can possibly fathom, how can I get them to see that? You know, my agency, we never spent a dime on advertising since it was founded, 27 years ago until about 2 years ago. And the past 12 months, there's been almost 10 million people that have seen our advertising on Facebook. And not that we didn't get 10 million leads. I'm not saying that. But, that's a lot different exposure. And I'm walking into this new venture. I'm buying this restaurant locally. It's a barbecue restaurant and a bar. And it's all the same stuff. This is why I love this adventure that we're going on with this restaurant. A little unorthodox, but it's all the same. What are we known for? And how can we get more eyeballs to see that? Yep. And at the end of the day, that one thing is going to scale our business. So I don't know. Those are 3 things that I can think of at the top of my head that we've learned from some of my mentors.
It's good, man. And I think, you had a nugget in there too. Well, you had so many nuggets in there, but something that really stuck out to me was just, and kind of how I heard it is just knowing your value, right? And I think some people only talk to 10 or 11 people a month because they think that's all that they're really kind of worth, where it's like, hey, or maybe who knows? Maybe it is pride, where it's like, dude, I'm going to close all these people. But it's like, even like you said, a mediocre person in a numbers game type situation here, they're going to outsell you, even if they're not as good at selling as you, right? And so, I think that's so important. And it's one thing I've always appreciated about you and just kind of being around you is, again, that confidence, right? And you can feel that. And just so I hope anybody watching this, if you guys are struggling with confidence, with self-worth, or even just knowing your value of your time. That's a big one I think we tend to overlook is like, dude, time is freaking money, right? It's not, but it is of value. And so really knowing what is your time actually worth, right? I love that you having them write down questions, and I hope you guys are doing that because that's super, super freaking important, man. So that's good stuff. Well, so then you started talking about marketing. That's kind of where I wanted to go. And so that was freaking perfect, man. So let's pivot to that. All right. So rewind 2 years ago. Take us, A to B, man. How did we get going? What all did you do? What was your first ad? Do you still remember, right? How many times did it break?
Yeah. So kind of that time that on that roller coaster of my life thus far, I was looking at, okay, I want to learn online marketing. I know that's the future. It just makes sense, you guys. I live in a tiny town. And so if I want hundreds of clients a month, right, in my future coming in, then how am I going to do that? Well, online, you can reach anybody in the world from any location, right? You can live anywhere. And so I started looking into that, and I bought some online courses. I probably spent, I don't know, 10 grand, 15,000 bucks, something, investing into some online courses, some mentoring, and some coaching. And I started running these ads. And to be honest, a lot of people know me for doing online webinars. So if you ever wanted to do online webinars or seminars, let me know. That's exactly what we teach people. And I started getting into that going, that's a good model. right? Because you're educating them. I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I say I just teach big people, right? I don't teach small kids. I just teach big people. And I said that model is going to work really well for me. So I started running these ads on Facebook, not knowing too much about it yet. And all of a sudden, it's working okay. Okay, it's getting some people there, but I'm not breaking even by any stretch of the imagination. And I started to get frustrated because I didn't have a marketer's mindset yet. And I want everyone to write that down, marketer's mindset. All that means to me is that you're willing to test it for real. Yeah. A marketer doesn't look at something and say, okay, I'm going to run this Facebook ad. I ran it and it's $100 and I'm going to shut it off now because I didn't get what I wanted. No, that's not a good enough test. A true marketer's mindset is, hey, this is an investment into my business. I know my numbers. I know what I am willing to spend to acquire a client.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend $400 to acquire a client. So I know if I do it for $400 or less, I'm a superstar. If I do it for $500, I need to change something. Well, at the time, I didn't know any of that. So I start running these ads, and what do I think? I'm bought into the marketing thing, but I don't know what it's going to take. And so I think it's just going to be an overnight success. I'm a little bit optimistic sometimes, and it wasn't. And it failed. It crashed hard. I'm getting up at 4 a.m. every day, working until 7 till my babies get up, being with them until 8, working from 8 to 10 at night after the kids, my wife and kids go to bed at the time. She was pregnant and very sleepy, so she went to bed at 8. I just worked. And I was starting to get really frustrated, and I almost gave up twice. There was 2 moments, and I have a lot of personal development in my background. I didn't think I'd ever give up on anything, and I just said, you know what, this isn't worth it. And I told my wife, I'm actually just going to hang it up. We're $25,000 into this thing. We really haven't seen the results. We maybe got $5,000 back in commission. We're 20 in the hole from it. I don't know. Let's just go back to doing it the old way. And she looked at me and she said something that really changed the course of our business life. And I'm very grateful to her for that. Our family is. She said, hey, Josh, I thought you were not a quitter. And I don't know why that is so simple.
Yeah.
But it just hit me
called
so
you
hard.
out.
She just called me out, and it struck my competitive chord somewhere. And I go, what did you just say, basically? And she goes, yeah, I thought that you weren't a quitter. I mean, you don't quit things, so why are you quitting? And I'm like, I literally don't have an answer for that. So I guess we'll just keep going, and we do it again. And the same scenario happens. I say, babe, I'm not quitting. Now I'm getting smart. And I'm like, hey, I'm not quitting. I just don't think this is the path to success for us. And she says, well, 2 months ago or 3 months ago when you started this, you said it was the future. You're a smart dude. Everything you've done turns to gold, so why don't you do this? And I say, fine, I'll give it another big shot. So we go another couple months, and it was a huge breakthrough moment. All of a sudden, our webinars started filling up. We're booking on every agent's calendar. We're booking 40 appointments a week, right? 40 appointments a week for each of our agents. And we're closing a pretty good percentage of those, and we start growing. And that moment, I feel, was worth tens of millions of dollars in our lifetime, just because I would have quit internet marketing forever. And this is what people do. And there's a point to my story. A lot of people watching this may have even done some internet marketing before and said, you know what? I tried it 3 times. That stuff just doesn't work. Or even worse, the excuse, Josh, you're in the Medicare space. I totally understand, that works for you, but I'm in the commercial P&C space, and that stuff just doesn't work for us, or whatever it may be. I see that excuse a lot, and I surely made it. Thank God for my wife squishing that. Do not make an excuse for yourself. If it works for somebody out there like Frank Kern, a famous marketer, or a Russell Brunson, or even a Tony Robbins, if it works in their business, what makes me think that my industry is the only thing that it doesn't work in? It doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Fair
so
statement.
Push through. And
did you get your wife a raise after that?
What was that?
Did your wife get a raise after that breakthrough moment for you?
Yeah, I used to be the budget guy. I was like, hey, this is the budget. Don't go over the budget. We fought about money a lot. I say fight. It was just, general spouse arguments, right, about money. I learned, for those of you that are out there that might be arguing with your spouse about money, I learned if you just make more of it, that usually it gets better. So I did not increase the communication about budgeting. My philosophy now, instead of a Dave Ramsey philosophy that served me well at the time, of save every penny, I just say I don't have a budget problem. I have an income problem. So we just make more.
So this is perfect because you just said budget. I wanted to ask you this. So for somebody who is potentially either just, hey, you know what, Josh said it, I'm going to freaking take a crack at it, or I tried 3 times, but hey, you know what, screw it, let's do it a 4th time. Budget, so ad spend and things like that. So what would be something maybe for a beginner or a starter, like here's what I would dump into it to really kind of kick it off, right? And kind of in it, maybe go through just what you use as testers and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you my honest answer, and then I'll give you the answer everybody wants to hear. Okay? My honest answer is I believe somebody should set aside at least $3,000. Set it aside. I don't care if you're rich, broke, whatever. If you don't have the commitment of setting aside at least $3,000 into a separate account, if you have to, just to mentally prepare yourself that I'm going to take that $3,000 and I'm going to invest it into my business in the form of testing marketing. And if it all goes to zero and I don't get my $3,000 back, then I'm still fine. I'm okay. Yep. It was an investment in my business. Now, it depends on what level you're at. Obviously, if you're watching this and you have, $1 million of, income per year and you're a commercial PNC shop and you're doing phenomenal, then okay, guys, set aside $100,000 and let's go, right? But for the average person, I would say set aside $3,000. And on Facebook marketing, for example, I'm very familiar with Facebook, YouTube. Google is not something I do a ton of. I would set aside and I would run between $30 and $50 a day. It's not much. You're looking at maybe $1,000 to $1,500 a month just to start, and you start testing start following a proven model. So pick something. You got to give them something, and I hope this is the direction Joe wants to go. But give them something in your marketing for free in exchange for their contact information. They call that a lead magnet. So if you're not familiar, write that down. Lead magnet. What are you going to give them for free? And it's got to be something desirable. People like free stuff. And so for me, it's all about educating somebody with a free webinar because my clientele, my prospects want to learn what I'm teaching. The people that are 64 years old going into turning 65, they have to make decisions about their Medicare. Mm-hmm. And that's why it works. I would not do a webinar for auto insurance. I just wouldn't. People view it more as a commodity in a sense, and you want to go with a different lead in. Maybe you go with a rate sheet, or you go with some kind of a free cheat sheet of some kind on how to save money on your auto insurance. And you promote that in an advertisement, and then they go and they click and they give you all their information, and you can call them, and we call that a lead. And so for us, it's been huge to think about, what can I get that in front of them? And that's the entire gist of the marketing program. So back to the budget, like Joe asked, I would say start with $50 a day. And spend invest $3,000 towards your marketing, and learn from it. Watch the numbers. Know how many people saw the ad. They have this right in the reporting platform. How many people saw the ad? How many people that saw the ad clicked on it? How many people that clicked on the ad and went to your next page that says, hey, give me your email and your phone number in exchange for this free item? How many people that saw that message on your page actually filled out the form? Of the people that filled the form out, how many people answered the phone? Of the people that answered the phone, how many people closed? Of the closed people, how many people do I retain on the books? Of my retained people on the books, how many referrals do we get? It's literally a numbers game. And when you start to understand that numbers game, you start to be able to say, hey, all I got to do is scale this by putting more people in the front of that funnel, and the end result will be twice as much, 3 times as much. And so that's how we look at the budget conversation.
It's good.
Where do you see how to phrase this question? So you're putting people in the front end. How do you realize that you don't have the capacity or a capability to close that business that you're putting in on the front. Maybe you don't have the manpower. For example, okay, I can scale up front, but it's time to scale the agent base, the people on the other
absolutely.
end. Like at
So
what point
I
do you
would
realize,
say
like, oh, this agent staff that I have is getting overloaded, right? We're stuffing people in the front, but we're not getting the results in the back end because we don't have the capacity to actually handle the volume.
Absolutely. So at that point, you have like the holy grail of problems, okay? And that is like, most people don't ever run into that challenge, to be honest. Most
Sure.
people's challenge is getting the lead flow, and they've just never thought of it this way, or they just never had the capability to get in front of that many people. But I would say for those, it does happen. You follow the right marketing program, the right path, and you will see that. And when that happens, now you have the absolute holy grail, because you're saying, look, I have the hard part done, is getting people to want to do business with us or some level of interest with us. Now I just got to find some more salespeople. And so to your point, Tony, now it's time to scale you're not scaling your marketing anymore yet. You want to hold off on that, keep it the same, and scale your agent base. If
Right.
you need 2 more agents, go find 2 more agents. And the cool part is, with this kind of a model where you are doing the marketing, your agent doesn't have to be the same caliber of person. You're not saying, hey, dude, I'm going to pay you commission only, and you're going to walk out the door, and you got to just go knock on doors, cold call, and make your money. You're saying, look, you're going to sit in a chair, and you're going to have people, exactly, Joe, people just flooding into your life that have some level of interest in working with us. And I'm going to pay you a base salary of, $600 a week, whatever it is. And I'm going to pay you $100 every time you close a deal. And if you can close 30 deals a month, or whatever, your guys' commission level is, obviously if it's big accounts, bigger commission, but you're going to sit there and you're going to talk to people and educate people. And the people that go with us, you're going to get paid for, and we're going to get paid for. And that type of person is a lot easier to find than, training a business owner to go out and knock on doors and cold call for you. So I would say definitely that's a great problem to have. And people do have it, finding enough help.
Yeah, I think my question was more geared toward, is there a certain metric within all those numbers in that pipeline where you start to realize, oh, the breakdown isn't on the front end. The breakdown is because I don't have the capacity to close the business, right? I'm spending more money, but we're really not getting the CPA or the results that we thought we would get.
Oh, gotcha.
And
so it's not necessarily like,
and
do you
then
have
your
enough
light bulb
agents?
goes off. Oh, the problem is I don't have enough agents. That's where it is.
Well, that could be one of them. So if you have, basically it's, are we getting back to the leads in the time frame that Josh said to, right? And so I'll break that down. We have a process. We call every day for 6 days. So they go in our pipeline, they get automatic text messages, automatic emails, messages, and automatic voicemails over the course, saying basically to get them to book their appointment. For those of them that don't book their appointment automatically, right, through the automations, they're going to get called every single day by my agent staff, every single day for 6 days in a row. And all of a sudden what I'm looking at is, are my agents doing that? Or are they so busy with, whatever they're doing? Maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not, right? But are they so busy that they're not getting back to people? And I have people that have never got a phone call from us. Right? Are we putting everybody through the system exactly the way that we designed it? Or are we getting overloaded and there's a bunch of people that are just falling through the cracks? Like, hey, I paid $20 for that guy to talk to us and we never even reached out. That can't happen. One of 2 things has to happen. I have to scale the marketing back, which don't do that, or I got to get more help. Right. And that's time to get more help. Also, watch the metrics. If Agent Bob is closing at 10% of their leads that are assigned to them, and Agent Sue is closing 20%, well then is Sue just freaking phenomenal, or is Bob sucking it up?
Right.
Or is it somewhere in between, right? You're going to have your superstars. You're going to have your just the run-of-the-mill that's average that you can live with. And then you're going to have the people that are bringing you down. You got to cut the ones that are bringing you down and come up with, hey, if Bob's closing at 10% and 10% is still profitable for us, then I don't have to fire Bob. I just want to find more Sues, and that's the way we'd look at it. So imagine, for those of you that are kind of getting into metrics for the first time, look at the pipeline like I talked about. I view it like a water pipe, like literally like going to your house, a pipe that brings water to your kitchen sink. Okay. And in this pipe, you're funneling leads into it on the front end. And the goal is to get all of the water that comes in the front end to go out the bottom of the pipe. The problem is there's going to be holes in this pipe. And you got to figure out where the major holes are that all this water is leaking out. So basically you got to look at, is it the fact that my ad sucks, and people are looking at it and everyone's seeing the ad, but nobody's clicking on it.
Yeah.
That means your ad is bad. It doesn't mean that your salesperson's bad. Well, I only got 3 sales and I'm spending all this money on marketing, Josh. It just doesn't work. I say, okay, Mr. Business Owner, what doesn't work? I want people to write that down. What isn't working? What isn't working?
Yep.
It's not the salesperson. It's not even the webinar. It's the ad. Or maybe you're getting a ton of traffic. People are clicking on your ad all day. They're going to your landing page. They're registering for your webinar, and you're getting $7 registrations, right? $7 leads, which is cheap, by the way. $7 registrations, and you're getting all kinds of those, but then nobody books an appointment. Well, what is wrong? What isn't working? The ad's working awesome. The landing page is working phenomenally. You're getting cheap leads. What's not working is you have a problem inside of your webinar. You're not convincing. You're not influencing anybody. So fix that, right?
Good.
Put the duct tape on that hole and fix that first. So it sounds a little, for people that are really into marketing, they get that. But for people that are not thinking in that way, I hear it every day. Josh, that just didn't work. That webinar funnel just doesn't work. No. What part of it didn't work?
Well, and
Find
I think
the one thing.
I think one thing, I love everything that you just said, and I hope you guys are hearing this too. Bro, when there's a process and a structure for everything, it's very easy to diagnose where that hole is, right? And I think that's one thing that you've become really a master at. Dude, down to even just you sitting there, and I know you're even talking more high level even on this call, because I know there's way more in the weeds type conversation behind the marketing, behind ads and that. But dude, you literally have hey, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, here's step 4, here's step 5, all the way to the referral from the retained business. That's the most important part. If we're selling it, great. If it's not sticking on the books, what are we selling it for, right? Like, the whole point is we're trying to build this residual stream of income. And so I wanted to highlight that, because I think you've done an amazing job of literally, here it is, here it is, here it is. Like, you have it all so very well structured. And so just wanted to say that. But real quick, because we are running just a smidge long here, but I wanted to give you just a couple minutes, Josh, to talk about Thrive, what all you got going next month in Denver. And I'm freaking pissed. I can't make this one, but I know I'm going to the next one. But anybody y'all need to be at these events. I've heard nothing but absolutely amazing things. So maybe just kind of let them know what it is, where it's going to be at, dates, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always wanted to help people in a higher capacity, right? And so the reason I teach a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, insurance agents specifically, how to scale their business, how to use these types of principles to grow your business. We get very granular. And I wanted to put an event together that was not quite, in the clouds, it's not just motivation. I wanted to put which I enjoy those too. I wanted to put something together that's very in the weeds, very step 1, step 2, step 3. If you want to do webinars and online marketing, here's exactly how to do it. Literally, I'll give you the slide deck. Here's how it works, right? And that's why kind of how the Thrive seminar is what we call it. Yeah, that's how it was born, is teaching those things. And there's 3 pillars to Thrive. And the first one's all about, what do you believe about yourself? And it's kind of the highest level personal development stuff that I have learned from my mentors paying hundreds of thousands of dollars on how wealthy people think. How do they operate? What do they believe about themselves, and what do they believe about the world around them that actually propels them to success? Why do they do what they do? And how do they think? And so for me, that's a huge, huge part of it. So that's one pillar of Thrive. The second pillar is all about the sales side. It's all about your personal skills of charisma, of sales, of influence. How do you speak in a way that when you open your mouth and talk, people want to listen to you? That is what sales is. How can you talk in a way that attracts people to your business instead of repels them? And there's a very specific skill set. We teach that inside of Thrive. Word for word scripting. What do we use in our agency as far as call flows, etc. So we get very granular on that stuff. And then the third is almost the most exciting to most people is the marketing. And this is like the whole concept is how do we build our marketing department, if you will, right, inside of our 1-man, 10-man, 20-man agency, whatever it is. How do we make that a well-oiled machine that when you plug leads in, appointments spit out the other side on your agent's calendar? And how do we generate this type of business from an online model? And so for me, I'm teaching my exact processes. That alone has brought my income from the 6 figures to the 7-figure level, which is just, I can't hardly fathom that myself sometimes, and there's a long way to still go. And so that's what we're teaching at Thrive. Right now, it's only for the next 4 people. The other day it was 6 people. I got 2 people that signed up. Well, their next 4 people, it's only $250. And so I know it's a laughable amount. That includes lunch both days. And so it breaks me even, basically. Yeah. It's in Denver, and it's on June 27th and 28th. And so I don't know, I can maybe post a link somewhere, but it's joshlustig.com/Thrive Denver. joshlustig.com/Thrive Denver. And you better hurry because I know all 4 of the $250 seats are going to be gone by the end of today for certain. And I'd love to see you guys there.
Absolutely. You have you have an online event coming up is it with Eric?
Yes.
Piero coming up like this week or next week?
Yes, Thursday, which I guess is already tomorrow, and I think it's 3 p.m. I think it's 3 p.m. Pacific time. Or I got to check on that, but 3 p.m. Pacific time, and it's all about marketing. What we're teaching tomorrow is a little bit more granular on the exact process that I would take if I was currently making $100,000 a year or anywhere close to that, right? If I was already in that situation, like many people watching this, and I wanted to go to $500,000 in commission, this is the exact process that I would take. And that's what Eric and I are going to be teaching tomorrow, which we're excited about. And it's a free training tomorrow.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so I hear you're buying, you mentioned this earlier, you kind of slid it through, but you're buying a barbecue restaurant. Is that right?
Yes, I'm buying a barbecue restaurant, and it comes with a bar attached, a liquor license and stuff. So it'll be a different adventure.
I'm coming to Idaho, baby. Get the Coors ready.
We have plenty of Coors for you, Joe. On the house, even. On the house.
Is the barbecue any good?
It's very good. The original owners, he actually grew up in Memphis, lived in Texas for a lot of his life as well.
Okay.
And so it's very authentic barbecue, right? The ribs, brisket, pulled pork, and nobody really does barbecue around here. Like at home they do, but there's no barbecue restaurants really. And so I can easily claim it's the best barbecue in Idaho, and just try to refute me, right? Like, I don't know how. That's another thing. One of my, Marshall Silver is a guy I learned from, one of my mentors. And he stands up and he says, Josh, I'm the greatest hypnotist of all time. Because he was a stage hypnotist and back in his day. And he still is. He teaches a lot of people, phenomenal dude. And I say, okay, what makes you the greatest hypnotist of all time? And he goes, I want you to think about what other hypnotists do you know? And I say, well, I don't really know any other hypnotists. He said, exactly. So am I the greatest or am I not? And I just realized that that's a huge concept we can apply to our marketing.
Yeah.
What makes it so sometimes is that you say it so.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why Syndicate is the best Facebook group.
Yes. Fastest growing. What made you want to get into a restaurant?
I eat there every day for lunch, and I overheard him talking to some out-of-towner about, he was selling. I said, Tim, what the heck do you mean you're selling this place? And he said, well, I want to spend more time with my daughter before long story short, he's just at that age that he wants to get out. And I said, well, I guess I never thought about this before, but could I dig into your books tomorrow? He said, sure. I mean, so we kind of came up with the books together because restaurant owners are notorious for not really being business, system minded.
Right.
And I designed the first spreadsheet the business has ever had, right?
Wow.
And I'm looking at the numbers and I'm going, this is phenomenal. And I don't want to get distracted from what I'm doing. We have a manager that's going to, manage the place and stuff.
Yep.
But I just thought, you know what? It's a good, fun idea that I can prove my skills in a different industry.
Yep.
And at this point, I wouldn't recommend it for most people. But at the point we're at now, it's kind of a fun investment, and we can test out some local marketing, which will be kind of fun for me. Do some TV ads locally for it. And to be honest, my brother and I wanted to build a venue anyway that we could, host our friends at and hang out. Kind of I'm a big fan of the gangster movies, so I have that kind of in my head. I want my own spot, And so this is probably a better idea than just having an empty building, like actually having a business and not spending, $500,000 on some stupid venue that we only use once a month. This is probably a better idea. Yep. And that's kind of how that idea came about.
That's good.
Right on. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. I want to be respectful not only of your time, but everybody's as well. We don't go a full hour very often. Usually this is about 40, 45 minutes. So thank you for providing so much great content for us, Josh. It's been a huge pleasure. I'm a big fan of you. I love you to death. I can't wait to see you. When will I see you again? I'm not sure when we'll cross paths again, but I'm looking forward to it. So again, Denver Thrive coming up at the end of June, 26th through the 28th. Is that correct?
Yes, 26th through the 28th. Go ahead and message me on if we're not friends on Facebook, that's another thing. If we're not friends on Facebook, let's be friends on Facebook. So search me out, Josh Lustig. Hit me up. You can message me and my team. If you have any interest in going to Thrive, we'd love to have you there. It'll be a good time. And I appreciate you guys having me on today. It's always fun to kick it around with some of my good friends. You guys are studs in the industry, and everybody knows it. So thank you again.
Yeah,
thanks, brother.
No problem, man. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Let's
Get yourself to Thrive, and we will see y'all next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central.
Let's go. All right, y'all. Go win. Peace.